This week on Not Sauce for Work, Terry Tam is co-hosting from home, Eagle is producing, and I'm in studio. On today's show, we talk about the Dolphins' big trade. We have a nuanced conversation about Lia Thomas, and we continue to pile dirt on the grave that was Urban Meyer's football coaching career. We also talk about the Nets. We got all this and much more in this episode of Not Sauce for Work on Not Sauce Sports Podcast Network. Where do I work? Welcome, everyone. You're listening to, perhaps watching Not Sauce for Work on the Hot Sauce Sports Podcast Network. It's the funny part about that cold open is I read it flawlessly, despite all the mistakes in the text. I read it flawlessly the first time around when we weren't recording, and then butchered it for when we're actually going with on the show.
Should we put an ad out for a new producer?
Yeah, that would be. I know a guy. He often records without volume, so he wouldn't be good for this
Okay,
show.
so then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, Eagle, you keep your job for a week.
Hey, Terry, you want to see a magic trick?
Yeah.
You're gone.
he made it in the sphere. Now I feel lonely and everyone sees that there's an extra chair in the studio. That's Eagle's chair.
I made him a rip here.
That's Terry's chair normally.
How was it being in the void?
In the void.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what
I
the void
banished
is
you.
called?
Yeah.
No, you vanished me. So, what's this Elden Ring thing, Eagle?
What is this Elden Ring thing?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you want
Like,
me to come over and kill you?
Like I've heard of this. I've been hearing about this game for the last 2 weeks. Like, what kind of game is it? Why do people
It's a
talk
game
about it?
you will literally break your TV playing if you were to play it.
It's
Why?
Dark Souls, right?
Yeah, it's the Dark Souls games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
don't-
not.
don't-
It's like what? Like Zelda?
No.
It's
No, it's the equivalent of turning on your console and the console decides to anally rape you.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
not
that's
even a
not-
joke.
To be honest, any kind of rape. It does all the rapes.
But what kind of game is it? Like what? For a shooter
It's
game? Like what
it's
is it?
an action-adventure game
third-person
set in a
action-adventure.
medieval fantasy world of which everything kills you in one shot and it takes you multiple attempts every single time. The only way to progress is to fail.
And
Oh, okay, that makes
here's
sense.
the worst part about it is that as you're going through the game, the checkpoints are super far. So when you die, you don't start right where you were. It brings you back to 20 minutes ago.
And you lose all your experience points in the process.
Yeah, and you lose everything you gained.
You
in
lose
that
all
time.
the points that you gained within those 20 minutes?
Yeah.
until you get back to where you were. And if you don't get back to where you were, you lose everything permanently.
Yeah.
This is weird because I've always found that games are too easy when they just let us respawn at the exact moment where we died. Like I feel like we should be penalized.
Well, this is the one
This
for you
is the
then.
game for you then. But I'm telling you, you're going to play it and you're going to
I'm not
hate
playing
that
this
idea.
Yeah.
I'm
Jedi
not
Fallen
playing this
Order was the best version of that style of game. Yeah, it was like a good in between. Like it was hard and challenging, but it didn't make you want to end your life constantly while playing. I'm going to start the show with a quick review of the first 3 episodes of Winning Time. I'm really enjoying it. The 3rd episode had the guy who made me fall in love with basketball character portraying
John C. Reilly.
Well, John C. Reilly, no, he's playing Jerry Buss. There's a character playing Pat Riley who is sort of my basketball hero. It's why, while I'm not a fan of specific franchises, I do love what he's done with the Miami Heat, basically creating a franchise with no history and making them one of the most historied franchises in a very short period of time. So it's cool to see his representation on the screen. A lot of people are critical of this because they're saying it doesn't stay true to the story without realizing, of course, this is what we call a historical drama. It's not a true story. It's based on a true story. Its goal is to entertain. It's quite funny. Adam McKay, of course, of Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, who's nominated for Best Picture, although I don't think he should have been because I didn't really enjoy it so much as Don't Look Up. He's done a lot of work, most of which I'm a huge fan of. Succession, of course, he was the creator of Succession as well.
Great show.
I know you love
Can't
that
wait
show,
for it to
Terry.
come back.
And of course, he has that contract with HBO. That's why the show is on HBO Max. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I was young, but it's kind of the period where I started to get into basketball, sort of the end of the Magic Johnson era. This takes place sort of when he's drafted and when he's coming into the league at the
So
same
in the
time as Larry
80s?
Bird. Yeah, it's the basically 1980s Lakers. Where
How
basically the NBA
you were
was close
born
to
in
folding.
you were born in '82?
Yeah. So
So I mean, like you were 8 at most.
yeah, but that's kind of like when I started
guess,
getting
yeah.
into it, when I started playing basketball, when I started getting into it.
Yeah, that's when I started really getting into
yeah.
football on that age. That's why I
It's-
became
it's
a Cowboys fan.
It's a thing where like Isaiah Thomas said recently about Michael Jordan. He says they keep saying that he had to beat Magic Johnson, he had to beat Larry Bird, and so on. He says, but that's my story. He says Michael got them at the end when they were close to retirement, basically, which is the thing people don't remember about these things. The same with Kareem. Kareem was at the end of his career, but either way, like it doesn't take away from the greatness. And it's cool to see this era represented because the NBA was on the verge of bankruptcy. The Lakers were on the verge of bankruptcy. The league itself had games playing on tape delay, and this era of Bird, Magic, and Kareem sort of saved the NBA. So it's cool to see that represented on screen. It's not something I've really seen outside of like books and popular culture. It's referenced all the time, but we've never actually seen it on the screen. So it's pretty exciting for me. I'm enjoying it. I know there's some mixed reviews though.
Yeah. There are mixed reviews. Like I was saying before, I trust your opinion on this, so I will start watching it. What's it on Showtime?
Either HBO or Showtime. It's on Crave.
So it's on Crave.
If you steal your parents' Crave account like I do, then
No, people steal my stuff. I pay for convenience. I was gonna say I pay for inconvenience. I pay for convenience, and I don't mind sharing my stuff.
I'm that dude in general, but I have my parents' Crave just because I don't pay for cable. And so because I get access to their cable, I get access. The way that I still feel like I'm a teenager is my parents pay my cable bill. Oh, that's the single only way I still feel like a teenager. But we got a lot of stuff to get to. It's time for the news. Terry, it's the news.
Is it though?
It is. It is. News broke mid-afternoon yesterday as my Miami Dolphins made a huge trade. I have some mixed feelings from a football perspective because I'm really happy. Tyreek Hill goes to the Dolphins. They only give up 2 high picks, one first round pick and a second round pick, and then 2 fourths and a sixth, which that those picks are easy to make up with other moves. So I'm kind of curious to see what Chris Greer, GM of the Dolphins, does there. But the Dolphins traded for Mike Wallace in his prime. The Dolphins traded for Brandon Marshall in his prime, and they ruined their careers. So why should I feel like Tyreek Hill is any different?
I guess Tyreek Hill's a little different because he's like smaller and he can do multiple things. Where Brandon Marshall was like a good route runner, he might have lost a bit of speed. He didn't have his guy that him and Jake Cutler had a very good relationship. So a lot of the success he had. Remember that game he had like 22 catches in Denver.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like Brandon Marshall had like his big games. I think Tyreek Hill is a different. I think it's good to get a guy like Tyreek Hill. But I look at the Dolphins and I said it here a couple years ago when the Dolphins committed to the tank.
3 years. You said it would take 3 years. This is year 3.
This is year 3, and it's not even And I don't know what they did, but their receiving core is unbelievable, and Tua has a lot of weapons. The defense is, Miami's defense is always like average. You know what I mean? Like they'll have big games
Flores, here. They were amongst the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens now. But then they sold the house for Tyreek Hill, and I don't know if I think that's going to bite them in the ass. I don't think Tyreek Hill was worth all that for what they have.
Well, so I don't
protect
hate
Tua.
it. I don't hate it for this reason. You have 1 year to make a decision on Tua. You brought in an offensive coach in Mike McDaniel, because at the end of this year they'll have to decide whether or not they're extending Tua. And if Tua's even has a decent year, his agent is going to ask for like a multi-year extension. So there's that component, right? The other thing to consider is they brought in Mike McDaniel, who is a very good offensive scheming coach. They brought in talent in terms of from Raheem Mostert is healthy. He's a very good running back. They got Chase Edmonds, who is averaging 5 yards a carry on his career. They brought in Tyron Armstead, who's a very good left tackle, although not to his blind side. So interesting spending of money there. They have this great receiving core like you described, and of course they franchise tag Mike Gesicki. So look, they're gonna give Tua everything. So at this point, it won't be the Tannehill thing where we're still asking, like even now with the Titans, we're still asking, is Ryan Tannehill any good? But like with Tua, like at this point, you're gonna know because they're giving him everything. They're adjusting the line. They're adjusting the scheme. They address the skill position receivers. We'll know. We'll know by the end of the season if he's worth extending or not.
The worst part about this is that if he doesn't play well and they're like, okay, we're out on Tua, they sold their first round pick, so they're not even gonna be able to draft a quarterback for another 2 years.
Well, no, they sold their picks this year. They have a first round next year.
So next year they have a first round pick.
Yeah.
Okay,
next year they have, I think, 2 first, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. If that's the case, then
don't forget the Dolphins. Chris Greer is really good at assembling picks. The other thing is, if it doesn't work out, you could trade all these pieces. You could trade Waddle. You could trade.
It's
you
just
could just tear it down again.
Like picks are like reservations, like that Seinfeld classic Seinfeld scene. It's like reservations. Anybody can just take them. But like, what is there any value to this pick? Like, what are you picking with it? And that's what a lot of people have problems with. Is that okay? You can assemble all these picks, but what are you doing with it? And I think the Dolphins, up to this point, have like a C+ grade in what they picked with all the picks that they got when they sold the house a couple years ago.
And I'm kind of balanced on Tua. I don't know if I don't think he'll ever be an elite quarterback, but I think he'll be good enough. Like a guy, sort of that next tier down. A guy like Matt Ryan, for example, if you put him in a situation where he's got everything around him, and we'll talk about Ryan in a second, but that kind of guy where if all the situations fits properly, I think you can win with Tua. But obviously top 5 pick, you need to get a guy ideally who is that top tier, but I don't think he's that.
I was also not high on Tua being drafted that as high as he did. The only reason why he got drafted is because of who he was. I don't think that he was the best
performance.
And he played really well, but I just I can't see it translating. Like I felt like he was very injury prone. Like
he had one injury in college.
That hip injury was really bad. It was a huge one.
Yeah, it was one. Like
but he got injured. He got injured with the Dolphins.
He had the Dolphins. Yes. Well, before that, Terry, the Dolphins picked him before the Dolphins injuries.
Of course, but you could predict injuries according to Alex the intern.
Yeah, of course, yes. Naturally, you should predict
because he said Alex guarantees injuries.
Yeah, I know. It seems weird. Like rooting for pain is a weird side to be on.
I guarantee that guy's gonna die. Like I just guarantee it.
Well, I mean, we're all gonna die.
Exactly.
So yeah,
we all get injured. We all get injured.
You're right. He is death prone. New analytic is death proneness. But so
what's a symptom of death proneness? Is it having a heart?
Breathing, having a heart. The one thing that kept coming back to me is when the Dolphins didn't end up making a move on Deshaun Watson, I publicly expressed sort of kind of gratitude because I didn't want to cheer for Deshaun Watson because I'm kind of grossed out about the whole situation. And of course, I get the 900 what about texts the second this happens. It's like, well, what about Tyreek Hill? Yeah, the guy did some really shitty things. He beat his pregnant girlfriend in college. And there's a police report that basically led to a toddler's broken arm. These things are horrible. They feel a little different for me in a way that we talked about last week, Terry, is that, like, for example, with musicians, we all draw a line like, I'm not going to listen to these guys, but I'm going to be okay with these guys. What they did was shitty, but I can't not listen to music for the rest of my life. I draw a line somewhere. For me, the thing with Tyreek is that he's both times been apologetic. Deshaun Watson hasn't. Obviously, he can't because then he'll actually go to prison. The next thing is, there's Deshaun Watson signs for $1 million, $230 million guaranteed, but $1 million salary next season. And the goal is because that when the league suspends him, they're going to sacrifice the least amount of salary. For me, that's not atoning for what you did wrong. It's getting off scot-free. And that whole feels gross.
Let me understand this. So he signed for a $230 million contract for how long?
For 4 years, Eagle?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, let's say 4 years.
Yeah.
1 million, 230 is guaranteed, and 1 million is his salary per
for
year
this year. Yeah.
for this year. And that is if. Why
So
would
basically,
Cleveland do
basically
that?
everything is bonus upon signing as opposed to salary. So they can't take
Why-
away his bonus money. They can only
Yeah,
take
why
away
would
his salary.
Cleveland do that?
So here's the thing I
How
thought.
dumb
He
is
said he
Cleveland?
wanted it.
Here's the thing that actually gave me the creeps is that I can imagine Deshaun Watson being indignant. I can imagine his greasy ass agent coming into the room and pitching this. But remember, the Browns were out of it for a second, right? Like, for Deshaun Watson initially said, "I'm not going to the Browns," and then he eventually waived his no trade clause. Is it that the Browns were the ones who came up with the idea of like, "Hey, we have this extra pitch for you. What if we give you a salary of $1 million, fully guaranteed 230, and this way you keep the most of it possible because that way you pay the least amount of fines." If we get reporting that it was actually the team that proposed this, that's the grossest thing I've ever seen in pro sports by like a large stretch.
It's disgusting.
Like, it's up
it
there.
Actually is disgusting.
It's up there with some pretty heinous crimes.
I'm also genuinely curious in terms of both the NFL and the NFLPA allowing contracts like this, because effectively,
I think the NFL is going to penalize this bonus, and they're going to take it to they're going to be what's it called? They're going to appeal it, but I think they're going to have to at least show that they see what Cleveland's doing.
yeah, because I mean, this is basically a way to guarantee contracts. So why don't they just put that in the actual CBA at that point, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you're just giving preferential treatment to people because they say I want the money up front, and you go okay, so just do it for everyone, or make it a rule where you can't do that, and you can only give a bonus which is like 50% of their salary or something, right? Like,
It was
230 million for a guy who might go to jail.
and because here's the other thing, it's fully guaranteed,
Yeah.
and like because he's not
So
been
weird.
found innocent, the grand jury said they don't have enough evidence at the time. So if the prosecution assembles more evidence, it goes to the grand jury again.
Yeah.
And they can then decide, yeah, you know what? We now have enough to pursue criminal charges. A grand jury, by the way, that listened to only one of the 23 accusers. They only called one of the 23 accusers for a deposition.
What kind of a world are we living in?
Terrible.
Oh,
You
for
know,
real?
World
Like,
War
what kind of a
III.
world are we living in where you're taking time to start a trial, or like at least get some discovery or some depositions or whatever. You're taking the time to start this, and then you're like, yeah, we're only gonna interview 4% of you.
Yeah,
How?
I know. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's pretty good quick math though on your behalf.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I did. This is how I did. I did 6 + 4, and then
Dude.
8 + 3.
There was a way easier way. Matt Ryan goes to the
So-
Colts.
So many Office Kevin references going on right now about
Yeah.
math. Unbelievable. That show is it's just in my head. I feel like I work there.
We're all Dunder Mifflinites at heart, you know.
If we were ever able to design an office for Hot Sauce Sports, I would design it just like that.
Oh yeah. Everything down to Pam's painting of the office of a building that's gonna look nothing like our office at all.
Yeah, exactly. But no, we just get that painting. I'm sure we can find a duplicate or whatever.
Do I get Jim's random office that just appears randomly in season 6?
Well, first of
glass
all,
box?
it's always been there. I actually looked into this. It was
No
it's
way.
always
way.
there. It was always there. As of sorry, it wasn't always there. Remember when they merged with Stanford?
Yeah.
The guy, the black guy that was working in the corner.
Okay.
Okay, so it was there at that season, but I don't think it was there the first season.
It was definitely not their first couple seasons.
I'm trying to remember now. Could be
Definitely.
wrong, but it's a
remember
good question
even-
when it showed up.
I'm rewatching the series with my wife as you're doing with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And both of us were like, wait a second. No. That glass case of emotion wasn't there before. It was not there. Matt
Is that you
Ryan-
want that office? What office would I take? I think I would take like Toby's, but I'd take Kelly's, but I'd close it off.
I was going to say, you seem like an annex guy.
Yeah, I'd take Toby's and Kelly's in the corner, and I'd close it off, I think.
We'd have to put Duke in Michael Scott's office because there's just days where he's so grumpy that he just needs to be able to close his door. You can't have him in the bullpen.
No.
Duke's
Just
No,
in the
I
bullpen.
put him in Darrow's office.
No, I got
No,
Dale's office.
that's Pease's office.
No,
Pease's
I was gonna say, just put him in there, and you
No.
can just not come to work that day.
No, Duke's going to be in accounting with the designers, with the blogger, and then the bloggers will be in the middle, and then like, what do we have? We don't need an
We put
HR
Alex the internet at reception,
at reception, naturally.
and we just leave Michael Scott's office empty. And then when Alex the intern asks us, "Can I just take the office?" We'd be like, "No, we have plans for it."
Yeah,
And
just
we
in
always leave it
case.
empty.
Just in case.
And I'll take
Or
the
Eagle-
entire warehouse.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, Eagle will just be downstairs.
Oh,
Eagle will just be in the studio, basically. That'll be his office.
yeah, it's true. In this whole office, we don't have a studio. That's a problem. The conference room is the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Then where do we have our meetings?
We don't.
Oh.
We don't.
We have them
do
in the
on
middle,
Zoom while we're all in the same room.
in the kitchen where the bathrooms are. That's where we have our meetings all
There
the
we
time.
go. We have it all sketched out.
So if anybody has to go mid-meeting, it's quick, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And they can refill coffee.
And you
It's
don't
perfect.
want meeting rooms to be too comfortable because you don't want everyone thinking they have an equal say. right?
Exactly. Like we really, and we need to.
It's more
we
us
need to
talking
put-
at them.
Yeah, and we need to like put them like dig into the ground a bit so they're below us. So like one
Yeah.
step down, and
Yeah, if
then
you can just-
us.
Like, or we
Up
build
here.
ourselves an altar. You know, like
Did you guys
Yeah.
ever think about that actually? About how the conference room, the table magically disappears when they have all hands meetings?
yeah.
It's
all
just
the
all
time.
chairs, and then suddenly there's a table.
I imagine that Michael Scott has
Wow,
so
good
efficient.
call,
He has his staff disassemble the table to set up chairs.
No, the table always gets pushed to the corner, back behind him to the
No,
left.
it's a giant table. It doesn't make sense.
No, it does. It gets pushed to the corner under the TV,
guy.
under the
I feel like your
The window.
grasp of physics here is weak. Like the conference table sometimes takes up the entire conference room.
sometimes,
Sometimes,
And
and
then
then
sometimes
sometimes
it doesn't
shrinks to the
exist.
corner.
and sometimes it just it becomes 25% of its size and gets to the goes.
There's
to
some
the
Eagle production magic that just makes it disappear.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Matt Ryan goes to the Colts. And the most interesting thing about this for me is I don't understand what's happening with Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. I knew the market would be kind of cold for Jimmy Garoppolo, but I assumed like you can't draft a quarterback third overall and still keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the team. And keeping Baker on the team after you publicly go out and get Deshaun Watson seems like a super toxic situation for me. So I don't understand why no teams are even willing to give up a 6th round pick for Baker Mayfield. Is the report?
I don't know. It's the money, you know.
But the Browns are apparently willing to eat. First of all, it's only $18 million, which by today's standards is not a lot of money.
Who did he piss off this much that he's
I
not
don't
worth a
understand.
6th-round pick?
But that's the thing. The 2 seasons he was healthy, he was quite good. He hasn't had any.
Yeah.
He had that situation with the cops in college, but he hasn't had any sort of really bad public moments since he's been in Cleveland.
I mean, other than being an entitled little prick, like, honestly, but that's basically what he is.
That's an NFL quarterback.
I know exactly, but it's just like it's what he is.
Yeah.
You know, but like we knew that about him.
Yeah, you drafted him first overall knowing that.
Yeah, and
I
if
don't
there wasn't the
understand.
Browns, then most teams would have drafted him. So
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not on him now. At least a 3rd. I mean, like if we're talking, Tyreek Hill was able to
No,
go get 2
They
firsts, 2
allegedly,
seconds.
I read this on The Athletic. They were looking for a 6th and were willing to eat up to 30% of the money.
That's crazy. Okay, so which teams need a quarterback right now?
Well, the Panthers,
Dolphins.
the Saints, the Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Oh man, we're good. We got 2 of the
You're
same
okay.
guys, one left-handed,
You're
one
okay.
right-handed, who both
You're
are really good throwing short passes.
You're okay. You're like the day after you lose your job you lose the job that you hate.
Again,
You're like I'm all right.
To me, the Dolphins are. It's the first time in my life that they've done something properly. They drafted a quarterback high who was ranked high. That's fine, and you surround him with everything to make a decision on the extension. That's what you want.
Seattle still needs
Seattle would. I would love to see Baker Mayfield in Seattle. It looks like it would be a lot of fun. I think him and Pete Carroll are the same kind of dude, if you get what I'm saying. I think they're both entitled bricks. And you know, the Giants could bring him on in case Daniel Jones doesn't work out. You don't have to waste an entire season.
Houston still technically
Houston-
needs a quarterback.
I mean, I actually think Davis Mills is not bad, but like, why not bring on somebody to push him? It's not like he was like a revered draft pick or anything. So
Baker
why not?
Baker in Houston is actually ideal.
I thought the Colts was ideal because of all the play action stuff.
I mean, listen, yeah, no, obviously, I'm saying with anything like it's realistic. Like he's not
Yeah.
going to go to the Colts now. But yeah, I would have been down if he signed with Houston. Houston would have been a nice thing for him. Carolina too would have been nice, but they're still for some reason clutching on to what they have,
Yeah.
which isn't much.
Which is
and then
free.
If Winston doesn't work out with the Saints, maybe they make a trade.
Taysom Hill is still there.
You got to move him before the season, because you can't go into camp with somebody who's this unhappy with the situation, right?
I think what's happening, and this is real, is I think that they're already convinced. They're already going to buy him out, and the league knows it. So they're not going to have him come to camp because that's just going to mess with Deshaun. I think, or it'd be kind of smart for them to bring Baker into camp, so it kind of takes attention away.
Plays, though.
No, he won't. But it takes attention away from Deshaun. But they do it. At the
do you think he
risk.
sits out? Because I think the opposite.
Yeah.
I think he shows up and makes a scene.
No, I think
no, he won't be
I
there.
think he sits out. I think
he won't be there.
I think he channels his inner Zion Williamson and orders a bunch of pizzas.
I think that the league knows that he's going to get bought out, so he'll get bought out, and then
That's actually, what, Terry, I got to give you credit, because I've been nonstop reading about this because I find it fascinating that he hasn't been picked up. You're the first person who I've actually heard say that, and it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
It's
why
shocking.
would you?
Not shocking that you came up with it, just shocking that nobody else thought of it, including everybody in this room. Like it's only the most obvious thing, and none of us are thinking of it.
No, every year in my fantasy hockey league, we run it like an actual NHL team with the cap, the same amount of number of players, prospects, the whole thing. And every year we make there's always trades and stuff, and then it's always like some guy offers you something for a third round pick, and you're like, no, I'll just wait for free agency. Like I know you're gonna drop him, so I'm just gonna pick him up for free agency. Like if I really wanted this guy, he's not worth that for me. That's the same thing with happening with Baker right now. They're all just gonna wait and see, and then the highest bidder. I think Seattle's a nice thing, but isn't Mariota in Seattle?
No, Mariota went to Atlanta. Also, again,
Atlanta, yes.
Atlanta also needs a quarterback because they have Marcus Mariota.
No, I'm actually in on Marcus Mariota with Atlanta.
Dude, you think every quarterback is good?
I don't. I just don't. I don't fucking sell them all down the river.
Your top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, it has 20 quarterbacks in there. You have 20 quarterbacks in your top 10.
But I do that with everybody.
I know you do.
I do that with everything. Top 5, top 10, top 10.
No, but it's
my favorite.
It's way better than being a hater, right? So it's better to have
very
that
positive.
Position, but Marcus Mariota proved he's not a starting quarterback in the league.
Everybody has a long leash, and I think that Marcus Mariota, given an opportunity, he would do well. He was given an opportunity in Tennessee, didn't do well because young quarterback, whatever, different system to get all that shit. Now he's in Atlanta. He's got the ball. Maybe something's gonna happen. He's got a good receiving core. Maybe something's gonna happen. Actually, he doesn't.
He's like Tua, but worse in every way.
Actually, his best receiver's gone for the year for fucking making a $1,500 bet.
He's got a tight end who's gonna be quadruple teamed every play.
Yeah,
and his running back is a wide receiver.
So okay, I'll take it back.
I can totally see him succeed.
But with Calvin Ridley, it's a different Mariota.
Oh well, I mean that's the thing that a lot of teams try to do is surround these quarterbacks with top end talent to see.
You know what? I don't take it back. I'm still on Mariota. Okay, right. I was a fan in college. I'm still a fan now, and I like it. Matt Ryan to the Colts. We still haven't even spoken about it.
Oh yeah, I was just using it as a segue to talk about Baker. Next. The Heat had an on-court scuffle as Jimmy G got into it with Coach Spo, and Udonis Haslem earned his keep this week.
Yeah. He's like, shit, how do I stay another week? Let me fight with Jimmy Butler.
Oh, he's there forever. He's never losing that job.
It doesn't make sense. I feel like he was on the team in 1991.
About.
Has Haslam been on the team since they won their championships?
He's been on every championship roster of the Heat. And he wasn't young.
He was even on the Dwayne Wade Shaq years?
Yes, he was. And he was like a key player in it.
Well, I remember. Okay, yes. Okay, I remember that. And then,
so,
he's only played
for the
audio
Miami
audience.
I'll just break it down because I thought it was more audible content. Basically, him and Coach Spo gets into it with Jimmy Butler. There's since been a view from behind the bench where you either see, you can read Spo's lips and either he's saying, what, you want to fight me? Or what, you think I'm a failure? Is the two things I've heard. And it's hard to tell which of those it is because if you look at the mouth move, it's similar either way.
Oh, so I got to check it out because I was looking at Haslam, what he was saying.
Yeah, well, Haslam was getting into. Haslam was good to go. Like most players are the guys who pull their coach away from a dude. UD is the guy who's ready to fight with his coach. Like, so Miami talks a lot about like the heat culture thing, and UD is that. UD's entire job is to be there to get on rookies who aren't working hard enough, to get guys to run extra in practice. He legit goes to practice every week, suits up. He does all the running drills. He does all the conditioning drills. He shows up. Like the Heat is one of these teams that give you like a weight
he doesn't play a minute.
You have to have. He rarely plays a minute because they don't want to disrespect him by only putting him in for like blowouts and stuff. Because I mean, is it legitimately murdered people in his life? So
if he's okay with that role, then it's fine. But like, is it insulting to him to be a professional basketball player and understand his role? I think he's the one of the ultimate role players. If you're telling me that he's been on 2 Miami Heat dynasties, basically 2 separate dynasties, and
a third one that went to the finals 2 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So like,
he's an ultimate role player. This guy.
Yeah. And so one of the things I will say is this: we talked about Pat Riley, and we talked about winning time. Pat Riley once said about Alonzo Mourning, "I don't care if he punches me in the face, but he's got to teach me something. Like I got to learn something from that fight." The Heat culture has always been that conflict gets the best out of people, and that's why guys like Jimmy Butler are attracted to it. That's why guys like Tyler Hero like it. That's why guys like Bam Adebayo. These are all guys that are in your face sort of characters, very confident folk. I can also see why other players don't want to go there. I can see why other players find it difficult to play there. But my favorite parts of it were UD joining in immediately in the fight, and Kyle Lowry immediately walking away and like, oh, let me just go hang out by the media bench and see what's up. Just like bailing on the fight completely, like not taking a side. I'm just gonna go hang out over here and see what's up.
I love it.
I can see that being like Eagle, if there's a fight, like, let me go see what else is happening.
No, man, I'm in that shit.
No. Eagle would be like yelling in the back. Eagle would be like the spark plug, I think.
So he'd be UD. Eagles are UD.
No, I think I'm definitely the UD.
Okay.
Or am I the Jimmy Butler?
Maybe. I say I'm the Jimmy Butler just because I'm the most difficult to work with.
Yeah, you're definitely Jimmy Butler.
You're probably the Coach Spo in that one, keeping everyone together.
You're definitely Jimmy Butler. I'll take Udonis Haslem. I think Eagle's more like trying to think of like a recently a fight. Like, okay, remember the Juwan Howard when he slapped that coach in the face? Mm-hmm. Then there was another coach that was yelling at him.
Yeah.
That guy.
Okay.
He's just like
not the
yelling.
Slapper, he's the yeller.
Yeah, exactly. He's just the guy in the background just going nuts.
So
diffuses a lot of fights that way.
I'm actually happy we had this conversation off air and we get to bring it to air, just because it is something that's nuanced. And I always said when it comes to topics of nuance, a lot of times you'll hear people who are extreme on either side start with, listen, this is simple. And often they're things that are the least simple things in the world. And I think that's what this has become. The situation I'm talking about, of course, is the situation surrounding Penn State swimmer Lia Thomas. So
let's give context.
Yeah, you'll do that part.
So Lia Thomas is a transgender athlete who is a swimmer and is competing for Penn State, like you said, and recently has won the NCAA championship in the women's league. The state
has set a whole bunch of records for Penn.
Yeah, exactly. And the state of Florida has recently created a gigantic controversy in saying we're not going to recognize her, that the true winner is the other person, that she has no place competing in these types of sports, and it's an embarrassment they let her do it, blah, blah, blah. And obviously it's fueling the conservative talking heads even more because it's easy to point at this person and say you are the problem with the world. Now, obviously...
And bigger than the world, America.
So that's the context in terms of where we're at. And now we get into the real conversation.
So I'm going to start with this. I don't have an answer.
Well,
right?
So
it's impossible to have an answer.
But you're entirely right. You know why? Because
impossible.
We don't have all of human history to draw on, right? Because like making this public and trying to deal with these issues is, let's say what, in the last 25 years? Last 30 years, we've even started looking at this. Whereas like most things, we have a catalog of about 2,000 years of recorded human history that we can go fall back on, right? So we're literally at the beginning.
It's very new to us. It's very nuanced.
We're gonna make mistakes.
But so for me, and usually I'm the insane one when it comes to this stuff, I have two thoughts which I don't think contradict themselves. One, she should absolutely be able to compete because competition is part of how humans are, and she should be able to do so in a competitive fashion, and that is her absolute right. And if anything, it encourages other people to also participate in sports, build community, etc. Two,
especially people from her community.
I can completely understand that today's separation is between pure biological gender in terms of male competition and women competition, and that for any other categories is how I'm going to phrase this. There's no true definition of where it is, and there's in a lot of ways a clear biological advantage for someone like her in these scenarios. Not everyone, obviously, but this is clearly a case where that happens. So there is no, like Terry said, there's no answer to this. But those are the two things that need to be solved for it. How do we let Lia compete? At the same time, let all the women not feel like they're getting disrespected, I guess, by having this happen.
So this is where I'm at with this. So I think that she has every right to compete. But the only thing is that what kind of a standard are we setting? If this person, and my point is that a year ago she was competing with the men. So I think we can all agree that just men are physically, in a general sense, physically quicker, stronger, more athletic. Obviously there's women that are much more athletic than men. Like, give me Serena Williams against 90% of the men in the world.
I was gonna say, like,
well, even there though.
The one thing is that she was already a competitive swimmer, where it's not the same
exactly.
as like a dude watching WNBA is like, oh, I'd school all these women. Nah, they would destroy you. They would
exactly.
I've seen
but the girl that won
university
third
level like women wreck just like a bunch of dudes playing a rec league. Like it's not the same competition.
Also, let's point out though, the reason she transitioned, as far as I'm aware, anyways, was not like I'm losing against the men. Let me go beat up the women, right?
But that's important. So my thoughts. Actually, you know what, Terry? I'll let you finish. My thought ties into Eagles, but I'll let you finish your point because you started, and we tend to do this where we all jump in and let's try and finish a coherent thought for once.
So this is the way I see it, is like she should be allowed to compete. The only thing is I think that we're by allowing this person to compete in this, you're kind of alienating the group, right? You're bringing one person in. Like, I think she was, when she was last year, when she was William Thomas, she was 430th whatever, and then she finishes first with the women. Did you see the third place girl? She was like 3 feet shorter than Lia Thomas. You know what I mean? So there's obviously that physical, and if there's a girl that's 6'5" that wants to compete, you're not going to say no because she's 6'5". But my point is that these girls were raised as women their entire lives. They didn't have the testosterone to help them. Muscle
mass, lung capacity,
all that stuff. And like when you look at it, and then there's the argument that it's a non-contact sport, so everybody's safe. Yeah, but everybody's safe. But if you have to look at it, these two girls that are finished second and third in the national championship worked their asses off for years to have a person that wasn't in their field come in, technically wasn't in their field, come in and take the role. I have no problem with them competing. I just think that we have to look at this a little bit. We have to back up a bit and look at this a little larger, because what we're doing is we're trying to be too inclusive while not considering the rest. And if we're talking about trans women or trans men fighting in MMA, that should and boxing, that should never happen. A trans woman should never be able to fight. Like we talk about Fallon Fox, she came in she was an MMA fighter, came in a year later, fought as a woman. She was an MMA fighter as a man, came in, fought as an MMA as a woman, and destroyed the girl. Then there was another girl that came and beat the shit out of her. So it was kind of like, balance, but it's just dangerous. Swimming, it's not so dangerous. So I can understand letting Lia Thomas do it, but I think it just sets an awful precedent going forward. We need to establish some sort of rule or some sort of standard that they had to have been in this transition for a certain amount of years. I don't know. I'm not even close to being a doctor. I'm the dumbest guy in the world. So,
but you figured out the Baker thing. So
I nailed that one. Check for Terry Tam. But realistically, I think we just can't say, okay, yeah, you know what, you're identifying today, you can come in like that. So, that's the problem. That's what I want to avoid.
So how I feel is this. And it ties into what Eagle's saying. Nobody is transitioning to win at athletics, especially athletics where there's no money for winning. There's no.
The weightlifting girl there, the power lifter, the Olympics for New Zealand. Come on.
Yeah, but again, it's not real money. It's not life-changing money. You're not going to the it's not LeBron going to the WNBA.
It could be
less
life-changing
money than he would make in the NBA.
It could be life-changing money for the person who finished second behind this person who was competing as a man and gained all this mass at weightlifting.
It's not. Nobody retires on the Olympics alone.
You don't have to retire. $50,000 can be life-changing for these people. It can clear a debt. It can clear anything. It can be your sponsor pays you $1 million if you finish first.
Terry, I think the point that Pease is getting at is if I say you can make $50,000, all you got to do is become a girl.
Yeah,
I mean that's
would you
not
change
like
your entire life for $50,000?
No. I'm not. Sorry, I'm not saying that women are doing this just to.
But that was literally my point.
Yeah. What I'm saying is like we can't. You said there's no monetary value. There could be. No,
I'm saying that there's the monetary value to gain in most of the sports where this is being discussed is not enough for a person to solely make that decision for that reason. Yeah. Now, firstly, the reason there's no monetary value is let's not pretend we give a shit about swimming. We don't. We never watch swimming. We didn't. Nope. I don't even know the names of second, third, and fourth place. Do you, Terry? Do you?
That's a problem.
Of course.
That's where it starts, right? That's where the problem starts.
I used to, I was one of those put up my hand, guilty. Used to say this about the WNBA, like, well, but the reason there's not investment is because, like they don't draw as much. That was before I watched the game, and then I started watching. And I was like, well, also this is a really good product, and the NBA used to lose money before they put money into it, right? Like, if you don't invest in it, you're not going to see a return, right?
Like so the NBA was a struggling league for a long time.
We talked about it at the top of the show. So now when we get to this issue, 99.9% of people who are transgender do not compete in high-level athletics. They are people who, by and large, suffer from a higher level of homelessness, a higher level of suicide, a higher level of domestic violence, a higher level of violence outside their home as well. These are people who deserve protection, that deserve the right to be themselves. And in the end, this is just sports. And sports to me is important because it allows a reflection into society, a reflection into the world. It's a way we can start these conversations. But the problem I have with the talking heads is that they stop the conversation at competition. It should be a place where we start talking about how can we solve this issue for sports while still acknowledging how people feel and treat people with dignity and respect. Because to me, dignity and respect, that's not any side of the political aisle. That's just the way to not be a piece of shit.
I mean, I knew long ago that this was going to be a problem when there was the whole bathroom conversation, right? Like, oh, what do you mean the man can go into the women's bathroom? Just make a fucking unisex bathroom, problem solved.
Yeah.
Really? Like, are we really talking about this?
It's never concerned me who's in the washroom with me.
But listen, but the thing is that you live a different reality than what's actually in the for women and for young children. Like that's like the main hotspot.
There's bathroom designs that are more wide open. I know that.
Yeah.
Just converting a bathroom that was supposed to be like a traditional bathroom and just slapping a dual sticker on it's not the same thing as having a bathroom that's designed as a unisex bathroom. I understand that as well.
This is a defund the police conversation all over again.
These are starting points for these conversations. They are not ending points, and that's how I'd like to see it progress. We had this conversation, of course, in our chat where both you and I, Terry, were like, we get it. It's a problem for sports, but also, like, that's not the end of it, right? Like, there's more to this. It's like a small problem. I really hope that's the next stage of media where we leave from literally, we got to the point where politics has become first take, right? And just it's people yelling from opposite sides, whether they believe it or not. And I hope the next...
It's future Supreme Court justices getting asked if they read the anti-racist baby book.
Oh my God, don't get me started on that. Or being questioned about what they think about going to church 3 times a year. The whole thing was confusing. But
why go to an Ivy League school, have a magna cum laude degree, and clerk for one of the Supreme Court justices if you can just read the anti-racist baby book?
Yeah, did you read it?
I honestly,
are you up to date?
I hope that it takes us to a point where we get more nuance, because there's usually there's usually a correction right after we see like these periods of extremism, but it doesn't feel like we're at the end of it. It feels like we're at the beginning of it, and that to me is a little terrifying.
It's the reason what's terrifying is like I feel like we're at the beginning of this where a lot of people are going to get hurt. And listen, we're talking about Lia Thomas and we're all the way in Montreal. God knows what she's dealing with, like in her circle, in her community, or in her
Pennsylvania,
state,
which is already not the most tolerant state to begin with.
Yeah, it's very blue collar, like the type, right? So it's like we're looking at it, and
look how they treated Ben Simmons, who's a man who's a biological man,
being a biological man as somehow identified as a biological baby, which is very weird.
It's true. But also, maybe he's a non-racist baby, so Ted Cruz would approve.
Yeah, Ted Cruz didn't know about the non-racist baby book.
Well, he would approve now.
I mean, listen, he's not up to date. Did you read it? Did you read it? So with Lia, I mean, God knows what she's going through right now, and she's gonna go through the worst of it. And we're talking about it, like I said, from here in Montreal, but it's a small blip, a small blurb in the future, in the future of our society and how we accept people, trans people, and people identified certain ways. And this is not going to identify her in any way. Like this, she's just going to go on with her life, and she should. And the reason why there's so many suicides and these things is because when you isolate somebody, they lose their mind. And when you marginalize people, they go crazy. And the people that are marginalized are always the ones that end up get shut down, and then they end up exploding. And then those are the people that everybody that's ever shot up a school was somebody that was a loner, was in the corner, was maybe bullied. You know what I mean? Like there's all these things. So we have to understand that we're still dealing with humans here, no matter how they identify themselves. And the death threats that this person gets on Twitter is beyond stupid.
Yeah, that's even the worst part of that.
I don't agree with her competing against women that have been women their entire lives, and she's decided, she's finally
admitting
able to
we
come
don't
out.
have a solution for this, because
exactly.
It's important for anyone to wish to have that dream to compete, right?
Exactly. Like I wouldn't want, like if my daughter she got a full ride scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, and she's like the second best swimmer in the world, and she goes and then she's competing to win a national championship she's worked for so long, and then this person who's obviously much more physically, like if the amount of testosterone that Lia Thomas produced up until that point is never going to be able to be replicated by the person that 1 second. And the testosterone allows, anyway, we're getting back into this and I don't want to, but at the end of the day, we have exactly, nobody understands it. That at the end of the day, we have to realize this person's a human, and we're not meant to just talk shit to them for no reason because we don't agree with what they say.
While I sympathize with your Oklahoma raised child, Terry, I think both of us would agree here that the most important thing is, while you would teach your child, hey, that's not entirely fair, you'd also teach we need to be tolerant and we need to understand that people are different, right? So that to me is the most important part of this. The death threats are, like we said, complete.
There's a woman. This is how dumb the human race is. There's a woman that brought her dog back because her dog humped another boy dog. So she said the dog is gay and she doesn't want it in her house. There's a video of this, and you hear the person saying it, my dog is gay, I don't want it, because the dog humped another dog.
Maybe it's what, this person also probably blames Lia Thomas for turning her dog gay.
Probably blame Lia Thomas for COVID.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
That's again, I'm happy with that conversation because I think a lot of the media are sitting it up because, like us, they don't have the answers, and I think it's okay to not have the answers. I think that admission's fine because it pushes us to try and look for it. But I think it's time for us to get into rapid fire. Eagle, what do we got?
All right, so we have a few topics for today. We're going to start with the first one here.
I forgot to add the last one. So
it's fine.
Do whatever you want for the last one.
Nothing but nets. New York City Mayor Eric Adams announced an exception to the vaccine mandate for professional athletes, thus technically allowing Kyrie Irving to play home games for the Brooklyn Nets. Originally, and I'm going to point this out, and I said it in our group chat, he said he was not going to play and not get his vaccine in solidarity with the people of New York who are being unfairly treated. And now he's been given the exception. Does he take it or not is the real question.
Yes, he will take it.
It's Kyrie Irving. Like,
of course
the thing is, I say this all the time. Kyrie Irving is
take it.
An interesting person who is a bad messenger because he makes these grand sweeping statements like, I'm doing this for... You're not doing this for anybody, bro. We know what you're doing it for. Yeah. You're doing it because this is your character.
Load management.
You're Kyrie Irving is a bit of a look at me Larry, and he got what he
Kyrie
wanted.
Irving is the Baker Mayfield of basketball.
Well, admittedly, he didn't get what he wanted. The Yankees and the Mets got what they wanted, and he just benefits from it.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing. First of all, Kyrie Irving, I feel like people, because of how polarizing is his personality, don't realize how good Kyrie Irving is. From an offensive skill, he is the best point guard in the league by a lot. He's one of the most offensive skilled. Now, his defense is amongst the worst, but you don't get him for his defense. He's a great ball handler, great court vision, great shooter, does literally every part of offense well. Kind of like if Carmelo Anthony was a point guard, that's what he would, and like down to the defense, right? Like he's that kind of player. Now, the thing that I found ridiculous, and I'm one who I got vaccinated day one. As soon as I could, I got it. That's just how I roll. Spoke to people in the medical community. They told me I should get it. I got it. So I thought people should get it. But the thing with all this was I found it ridiculous that he's allowed to sit in the stands next to people with no mask on, but then could not participate in the game around less people.
You're asking for logic where there is none. You're asking for like with Lia Thomas, like it's inexplicable. This is inexplicable. This whole thing is like the whole pandemic and how we treated it. It was so dumb. And that's just one example. Now with Kyrie Irving, him being allowed to do it, some people are taking, like Eagle, you mentioned it. Like, is he going to stand in solidarity with the people in New York? I don't think he should. I think that the athletes should. They provide entertainment for us. I said it from the beginning. Athletes and celebrities should all be vaccinated first, because if we're going to be forced to,
there's only so much Tiger King we can watch if there's another.
Exactly. If we're going to be forced to stay home, we need to have, we need to see product and we need to see them out there. And I think all the sports leagues, especially like in the UFC and the NHL, they ended up working it out. But like, we need to see it. So I'm okay with the athletes getting
but
first
the worst
dibs.
part about this is, Terry, you know what's going to happen? Right now, the Brooklyn Nets are slated to play against the Raptors in Toronto in the play-in tournament, which means
Toronto's going to be in New York.
Kyrie Irving just long enough to lose in the first round because they want to have Kyrie Irving, unless Kevin Durant does the Kevin Durant thing where he just decides they win the game.
And Ontario has like a little. Do they have? No,
doesn't matter.
They removed their mandates and stuff.
Doesn't matter. Canada, you can't fly in without a vaccine.
Okay.
So
there you go.
You can only fly in if you're Canadian without a vaccine. If you're non-vaccinated, you can't fly in without it.
Anyway, right. I think people are outraged that it's only the athletes. I don't care. I think it's good that they should do it. It's good that they should get.
I think I speak for all of us here when I say the more money you make, the more rights you should have.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's just how.
I have all the rights then.
Fuck you, man.
Super necessary. Jorge Masvidal has been arrested and faces 2 charges after his alleged assault of Kobe Covington. Pease, I found it hilarious about how you thought this was like a rigged setup joke.
You thought
it was a rig?
Yeah, because it was. First of all, it was at Pappy Steak, which is like.
I've never been. So
I can't imagine being a professional athlete and eating a Pappy Steak. Like, come on, you're in.
Like he was with the Nelk boys and.
Yeah. Steak, first of all.
Yeah,
so maybe Covington deserved to get his ass kicked for going to the wrong steakhouse. The second thing is, like, I understand, like, there's legitimate bad blood between them, but I also understand there's a sales component. The way both of these guys got so big in the UFC is obviously their talent, but also because they use their mouths to sell fights. That's part of the game. It's part of what it is. I'm not wrong. It's absolutely what it is. It's
no. The reason why you're wrong is because this fight will never happen again in the octagon.
Well, yeah, no, it won't. But
it was already done.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I thought when it first happened, my initial instinct was, this is not a real fight. They're just using this to set up the actual fight. And nope, it turns out that he's pressing charges, and it's what you should do. By the way, if you're attacked in a restaurant, you should always press charges.
I wrote a blog about this. I empathize with Masvidal for what he did. Like he's going after him and he's trying to defend his kids, but I don't believe him. Like, I don't believe that this was for his kids. He already had an opportunity to fight him. He fought him for 25 minutes. It was a wrestling match. It was boring. Masvidal had his chance. He tagged him a couple times. Whatever. It was a decent fight. Whatever. He lost the fight.
As a casual, it made me never want to watch MMA again.
It lost. He lost the fight, and he was embarrassed because he was supposed to defend his city because Kobe's claiming King of Miami, and we all know Cuban. Masvidal's Cuban from Dade County. Like he was on the Kimbo Slice videos.
Living on the streets of Miami with Kimbo Slice. There you go.
Yeah. So he was on the Kimbo Slice video. So like he is Miami. So him hearing fucking white boy Covington from Oregon saying he's the King of Miami, talking about his ex-wife and talking about George's kids, like and they were ex-best friends, ex-teammates, ex-roommates, the whole thing. Like, these guys were legit best buddies, and he just didn't. His ego needed himself. He needed to respond in the only way he knew how, and that's the way he used to do it when he was younger. There's videos that there's an interview leaked. I think he was talking to Ariel, and he said, "I'm the king of the sucker punch in Miami." He's like, "What do you mean sucker punch?" He's like, "You have to be able to." He's like, "You only need two things in Miami: a good sucker punch and a good 50-yard dash." That's what he said, and he said this like 10 years ago when he was fighting in Strikeforce. So like,
looks
that's
like
what
in his old age he's lost the 50-yard dash though. So
yeah, maybe that's what he's lived by right now. Yeah. So I don't think this was for his kids. I think it's embarrassing for George to have done this. I think it was strictly for his ego, claiming it was for his kids. And it just sucks that we got to this point, because everybody in the world would have loved to see Covington get his ass kicked. Everybody.
And look, both of them are wrong. There's two kings in Miami. First is DJ Khaled, and you want another one?
Drake.
Another one, Pitbull. Armando, man, he's the true king of Miami.
That's his real name, is Armando?
Yeah, Mr. World. We're first
I like
name
Armando,
basis.
man.
Mr. Worldwide, man, you know? Yeah, Armando Worldwide. That's his real name.
Next, the Bosnian Beast. After hearing insults about his mother and grandmother from a courtside fan, Portland Blazers center Yusuf Nurkic has been fined $40,000 for this altercation. I had to get one wrong, Terry. It's how it works.
Yeah, I know. I always wait for it. This is great, by the way. And why is it always at a Pacers game?
Because the Pacers fans are the worst people on earth.
Okay, so it's true though. The last time,
because there are people just listening. For those who haven't seen it, 5-second Google search. There's a fan on courtside. Nurkic, who's 7'1", 285, walks over and towers over the guy, intimidates him, takes his phone, and throws it into the crowd.
I love it. I love that Nurkic does this stuff. But and this is what the thing with Indiana is, like, I don't know if it's always that same section too. Like with LeBron James last time was with the guy and the girl.
I've said for a long time that if you're in the courtside seats, you have a responsibility, and if you're a piece of shit, you should get a lifetime ban from courtside. Of course,
100%. 100%. I think that $40K for that is a little harsh, but listen, if it's true, I think Nurkic is okay with paying.
I'm actually on Nurkic's side because, first of all, the things the guy said, it's now come out. He said stuff about Nurkic's mother and grandmother, both who most recently and publicly died from COVID in the last year. So that's pretty messed up, first of all. I can imagine myself getting that angry, but Nurkic actually should have been suspended. And the reason why is you can't have players interacting with the crowd this way. You need to go and ask security to have the fan removed, because
like LeBron did.
But the reason why, Terry, it's for player safety, right? Because we don't want to have we don't have the situation, right, like with Malice in the Palace.
Malice in the Palace, baby.
Like
or we want a situation like that?
I'll tell you this: the NBA doesn't. I'm all for player empowerment. I'm usually very pro player, but there's times like this where I feel like Adam Silver is a little lenient on players. I thought Nurkic serving a 2-game suspension would have at least like send a message saying, like, guys, come on, like, we need to protect players here. We don't know if that guy, like, we now live in an era where UFC and MMA is so sort of widespread that, like, we don't know if this guy, as skinny and small as he is, could have just, uppercut him or done some damage to him. Yeah. You don't know if he's carrying any weapon or anything
and realistically, if Nurkic does this, his teammates are gonna have to defend him. And then what if one of them slips? Pops their shoulder, like anybody. It could have been anybody.
$100 million investments in players.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, I get your point. If they had suspended him, I would have lost it, just because I'm more on the lines of, like, find the guy. He's obviously injured, so, like, whatever. So find the guy, send your message, but I don't think Nurkic did anything wrong there.
He did something wrong in that it could have gone. It could have gone.
In society, he did. In society, he acted like a gentleman.
1,000%. If I was 7'1", 285, that's exactly how I would react to that situation.
In society, he acted like a gentleman. Yeah. And that's all you can ask.
But meanwhile, Conor McGregor, doing the same thing to the guy's phone, had criminal charges pressed. So that's another way that it could have gone wrong too.
All right, Next. New team, who dis? Multiple sources have told The Athletic that former Jaguars coach Urban Meyer was unfamiliar with star players around the NFL, including Deebo Samuel, Jamal Adams, and Mr. 99, and was it 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald?
The man who
that guy?
The man who, by all advanced metrics, is the greatest pass rusher of all time. Bad guy.
The guy who's he's probably like, take Tom Brady out of the equation. He's like hands down the best player in the league, right? I think we're talking about the most
If you look
dominant player.
defense, I don't think there's a more dominant player.
Like Derrick Henry and Aaron Donald are the two most dominant athletes in this league, right? Like I think that's just basically what it is.
Has to be.
But
And
like,
Urban-
do you
Urban
not
Meyer
play
not knowing
fantasy
who he is.
football? And like,
Where did Aaron Donald go to school?
I don't think it matters. Like,
But where did he go to school?
No, but to me, it's like Urban Meyer applied for a job. He got this job. Clearly, didn't understand what the job entailed. Didn't do the work it entailed. Because if I'm handing my head coach a stack of scouting reports, guess who's on the top of the pile if I'm playing the Rams? Even if you're not, like, just guys you should know in the league. It's as if Urban Meyer lived in a bubble on a college campus and basically thought he would show up in the NFL and just win because he is Urban Meyer. He's just this God's gift to planet Earth.
I guess he spends his Sundays in bars in Ohio.
Yeah.
He played.
Finger
He
banging
played.
the
Not
Patriots.
watching the TVs.
He played in Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh. He was in Ohio.
Pennsylvania is not Ohio.
No, I know, but like
Okay.
they're
I thought
right,
you were
like
saying Aaron Donald's in
Ohio,
Ohio.
Ohio State and Pennsylvania, like Ohio, they're right next to each other. Like there's
Yeah.
no way you're the head coach of Ohio State and you don't know who Aaron Donald is.
Well, he didn't. As well as
There's
Deebo
no
Samuel
way.
And Jamal Adams.
There's no way.
Look, I can see it because of just this sheer arrogance, and I had to actually check up the source on this, and it's a legit source. It's the Athletic.
Tebow Tuesdays is
the-
probably the best thing ever.
The reason why I had to check up the who the source was, Terry, is because of our next rapid fire.
So the next one is sack up and carry on. In a recent trend, Kendrick Perkins was the victim of the latest media trend. He went on the air and confirmed the report from none other than Ball Sacked Reporting.
Ball Sack Sports.
Oh,
Everything that we witnessed last night, that was the thing that I noticed the most. So all those rumors and stories that we heard about about Kyrie and James Harden in practice with the Nets and Kyrie going at him. Guess what? Kyrie showed us that last night that those were facts and that was true. I have never seen Kyrie Irving play defense the way that he did last night, and it was beyond impressive.
Okay, so
Everything that we witnessed last night, that was the thing that I know.
So I'll
that's
just
not, it's not
quickly-
vindication of Kyrie. That's more of a shot.
No, but
to
I'll
Kyrie.
explain what he's reacting to is a story on Ballsack Sports that said that Kyrie would show up and play one-on-one with James Harden and dominate him constantly despite not being in basketball shape. Like when he was injured, would dominate James Harden. It's a completely
I believe
fabricated
that.
story. It's made up. So a little while ago, let's just rewind the tape a bit. I posted a story in our chat, and I was like, it was one about it was a player saying that if LeBron played during his era, he would have been a role player. The player was drafted a year after LeBron James, so we're all laughing about it. And then after I did like 8 seconds of research, I was like, "Oh, guys, this is a fake story." Thank God we didn't run with this on the show because the source is Ballsack Sports. And
Yeah.
Duke and Alex the intern mocked me mercilessly for this.
And you deserve to.
In that
You deserve
time, by the way, the following people have fallen for Ballsack Sports. Dan Levitard went to air with the story that I talked about. I saw them making fun of him on their socials. Stephen A. Smith got taken by Ballsack Sports, and Kendrick Perkins reacted to this story. I did some digging, and I heard a podcast. It was a basketball podcast. I think it's the Athletic basketball podcast. No, it was Basketball Illuminati. I wanted to give credit where I heard it. They interviewed the guy who started Ballsack Sports, and he said it's a similar story to us, Terry, where he kind of wanted to get into journalism, but then was jaded by the state of journalism today and that wanted to do something to make fun of sports media. And so he created this account, and his mission was to not only prepare it in a way that was like digestible, that would get aggregated, but also make it obvious. Like he stamps his logo, Ballsack Sports, on it. If you go to the Twitter bio, there's a bio of a fake story that went viral like last year.
I love it.
And it's all you have to do is look at his Twitter bio before you go to air with it, and you see, oh no, he's showing us this is a fake page. But then on top of that, his strategy was pretty smart. He not only went to things that were possible as stories, he went with stories that are not only possible, but stories that are things that we as media members want to believe. We want to believe Kyrie dominated that. We want to believe some idiot from LeBron's draft class was saying LeBron couldn't dominate in our era. We want to believe these things because they're ridiculous, because they're funny, and it's been working. So he didn't give his name in the podcast. That's why I can't even give him credit for his name, because he wants to stay like anonymous. But yo, shout out to Ballsack Sports. I can't believe I'm saying it. Shout out to Ballsack Sports.
They fucking nailed it, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And for our last rapid fire, it'll just be entitled, police in Oregon have arrested a man who they say stole a U-Haul filled with about 1,100 pairs of new Adidas Yeezy shoes. According to the police, the shoes are estimated to be worth more than $250,000. And that's a lot of fucking shoes.
Every year we do a story about a kid stealing shoes.
Yeah, it's true. We've been doing this show for 3 years. We've had at least 3 episodes where there's been somebody stealing shoes.
Yeah. Last year was the kid who used the Nike VP who used his mom. Yeah.
That was wild. I got mad because I keep missing on raffles, and it's that kid's fault as far as I'm concerned. It's
fucking loser.
I missed a raffle today that was in like 8 cities, including Alpharetta, Georgia. Which, had I just been on vacation, I would have been able to enter the draw, which makes me mad. So I saw this, and one thing I thought of was, have you guys ever had a pair of Yeezys?
No, never.
I got one pair.
I don't think I will.
I returned them about 2 days later. They were horrendously uncomfortable. They were the least comfortable shoes I've ever had. I also don't like shoes that have sort of that molding that comes out the back off the heel. I don't get that look. It's not for me. So, unfortunately, I'm less mad at this guy than the dude who stole his mother's Jordans, because I love Jordans. So.
Is he directly affected you?
Yeah. He took shoes out of my closet.
Or like you're not an easy guy, so you're like, whatever.
He stole them from me, Terry.
The worst part is about stolen shoes is that like you don't have to prove where they come from.
No. Well, because people buy them secondhand all the time. Right?
Not only StockX and Greats and all that shit, but like you they can bring it to like a shoe store. The shoe store will be able to tell right away if it's a fake Yeezy or not, and then they'll just buy it like at a discounted price. But like you're still getting it, you're still selling them like at $2,000, and they'll resell them at like $4,000. Or you just put them on Marketplace. People will buy anything.
Yeah, my recommendation: don't buy on Marketplace. Go to certified resellers and don't get ripped off. Terry, thanks for joining us by remote today. Eagle, thank you for all the work you've done, including bringing up that last story that I forgot to put in the script. I want to thank everyone who's taken a moment to rate, review, watch, subscribe, all those wonderful things. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on. And most importantly, thank you all for letting me be myself. You've been listening to Hot Sauce Sports.